infinity. I love you all with all my heart, with all my might. My videos are about love, infinity, creation, energy, because this is exactly who we are. We are infinite love, with infinite energy, infinite creation. This is who we are. This is who we are. With infinite love, infinite creation, infinite energy. This is who we are. And this is exactly what today's video is about. Today's video is a very, very important video based on objective reality, truth, and it's called Creator. Creator. So you can always refer to it on the website, on Substack, on YouTube, by checking it out on y.house/creator. That's y.house/creator. Please refer to the visual there. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it because this is an important video. It's an important message. This is truth. This is objective reality. So let's dive into it, okay? Yesterday I spoke about the sixth poem, and part of it, the introduction, was this message that I'm sharing with you today. So, but now let's talk about it. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's meet the occasion. Let's do it. Okay. So it all starts with the primordial source of motion. Spoke about these, the prime mover, the first mover, this notion of what started it all. And this is known as the primordial source of motion. Okay, the first motion, the first move, the prime move, the prime mover, the first mover that created everything that exists. Creation itself, infinity, because this is what infinity is. Infinity is the only constant. Infinity is creation. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it and break it down. This is a video about physics. This is a video about physics, which is an important component of life. So primordial source of motion equals energy. That's right, because energy is creation, and creation is life, and life is love. You can always refer to the visual. Energy equals creation, creation equals life, life equals love. So it's the primordial source of motion. This primordial source of motion equals energy. Okay. And what type of energy? Well, we're talking about spherical energy, right? Spherical energy. This is the creator. The creator is infinite spherical energy. And spherical energy equals organizing agent, the organizing agent of creation itself. So spherical energy equals organizing agent of creation. Because creation itself, infinity, the only constant, throughout an infinite number of cycles, essentially through its infinite consciousness and infinite self-awareness, realized the best way to essentially generate creation in a physical way as we are, because we humans are physical objects. We are physical, just like the sun. We are solid. We exist. We're biology. We are made out of elements and atoms. But all this energy is essentially solidifying to matter, mass, at a level of density that we know as biology. Okay, so we are physical. We exist. We're not a simulation. We are actually physical. We are real. We are very much real. And we are part of creation. Okay? And creation itself is spherical energy. And I'm going to explain why creation itself is spherical energy. Why is it that infinity is all this? And I'll explain it because I have everything here in the visual to explain it. I've done it yesterday, but I'm going to do it in a proper video for this. Okay, so the organizing agent of creation, that's what spherical energy is. Spherical energy is this, is infinity. Is infinity, is infinite consciousness, is infinite self-awareness. Okay, but it's a physical, because remember, we need to understand in creation as what it is, because creation creates creators, and creators create creation. Okay, so this is the mechanics, this is how it works. Creation creates creators, and creators create creation as a result, because this is an organizing agent of creation, and this is spherical energy, spherical in nature, because the sphere is infinite, and remember, the creator is infinity. So how is it possible that this is the case? How is it that creation is spherical in nature? How is it that creation is infinity? How is it that spherical energy is the organizing agent of creation? How is it that the primordial source of motion is energy, and energy is creation, and creation is life and love? So how is this possible? Why is this the case? So, and this is what today's video is all about. It's explaining the physics, it's explaining the mechanics of creation itself, the creator, infinity. So let's start there. Why is creation infinite? And in fact, why is infinity the creator? Why is infinity the creator? Why is infinity creation itself? And why is it infinite consciousness? And why is it infinite self-awareness? And why is it spherical energy in the first place? Why is the shape spherical? Okay, so let's start there. So let's start with the definition. Let's start with the definition of what infinity is. Because to understand infinity, the creator, creation itself, we need to understand what it is first. Because remember, we are aware, we're conscious and self-aware, just like infinity itself. We're infinite consciousness and infinite self-awareness. Why? Because infinity itself, through its physical form, spherical energy, is the organizing agent of creation. Meaning, creation itself forms, manifests itself. Creation itself creates creators, because creation is the creator. So if it's physical form, because remember, we're physical, we exist, we're conscious and self-aware, and this is why we are aware that we exist. This is why we are aware we're physical. The physical form, the physical geometry, the solidity, the mass, the matter of infinity itself is consistency, is spherical in nature. Is spherical in nature because it needs to be physical. It needs to be physical because we are physical. We are conscious and self-aware, but we are physical. We are a body. So infinity itself, the creator, needs to be physical to create in this existence, in this reality that we live on. And we need to understand what infinity is first and define it in physical terms so we can understand what infinity is and what it looks like in physical terms, which is what we are. Okay? And this is why this is the beginning. The primordial source of motion is energy. So we understand why spherical energy in the first place. And it has to do with his attributes, with his qualities, with his values, with its properties, its nature. Okay, so let's define infinity then. Let's start there. That's the best point to start, defining what infinity is. So infinity is endless, boundless, limitless, eternal. It's forever. It never ends. It has no end. It has no beginning. It's forever. It's eternal. It's forever. It's limitless. It has no limits. It has no boundaries. It's boundless. Okay, so this is what infinity is. It's self-perpetuity. It's forever. This is why the symbol in mathematics and physics of infinity is this self-perpetuating mechanism. The self-perpetuation mechanism is an infinity cycle loop. It's a reinforcing loop. It never ends. It goes forever because it's a forever journey. It never ends. So this is what infinity is. It's eternal. It's eternity. It's forever. This is what it is. It never ends. It's boundless and limitless. So this is the definition. So we need to think now, if this is the definition of infinity, this is what infinity is, and why can we define it? Because we're conscious and self-aware, and we have thinking brains, right? That allows us to understand these concepts, these notions, because we're intelligent. We can know what infinity is because we understand the meaning of what a limit is and what a limitless object is, something without limits. And we understand what boundaries are, and we understand what the opposite is, which is boundless, something that has no boundaries. And we know what the end is of something, and we understand the opposite of it, which is endless, something that has no ends. All these we understand because we're conscious and self-aware, because we're an intelligent species, and we can make sense of ideas in our minds because of our consciousness, because of our self-awareness, because we exist, we're physical. Okay, so we understand this, and we, as a result of these notions, these properties, these values, these qualities, these attributes of infinity itself, as a definition, as a concept that we grasp with our consciousness and our self-awareness, we know what the properties are now. We know the values, the qualities. We understand its substance, its volume, what is consistence, what constitutes infinity, and we understand the notion of forever. We know what this is. It's something that never ends. It lasts forever. It's eternal. And we understand what the notion of eternal is. Something that has no end. It has no finish. It goes to eternity. We understand all these notions. We understand these notions because we're conscious and self-aware, because we're physical. We are alive. We are solid. We are matter. Okay? The biological scale of creation. Then again, spherical energy equals organizing agent of creation. And I'm going to break it down. So now we understand the concept. Why? Because we're conscious and self-aware. So we understand the meaning of infinity itself. This is what infinity is. So then, how is it that it's the only constant? Well, let's think about it, because we're physical. So we need to understand that infinity, if it's the creator, which is the case, infinity's creation is the only constant. We are physical. Therefore, infinity itself must be physical. Meaning, it must have a shape, it must have a form, it must have a geometry. Just like us, we are geometrical. So infinity itself must be geometric in nature. It must be geometric in nature. It must be solid. It must be observable. It must be seen by our consciousness and self-awareness for the full definitions of infinity to come full circle. Okay, to come to terms with the reality, which is what we know, consciousness and self-awareness are perception because of our intelligence, the fact that we're alive. So remember, energy equals creation, and creation equals life, and life equals love. So I'm going to walk through all of these notions, but let's start with the definitions first. The origin, the genesis. Genesis itself means creation, the creator. Okay, so what is that physical object? What is the geometric figure in existence that we know of because of our consciousness or our sense of, and our self-awareness, that meets the attributes, the qualities, the values, the composition, the constitution, the requirements to meet the definition of infinity? What is this physical object, geometric in nature, that is real, that exists, that we can see and observe with our consciousness and our self-awareness, with our senses, with our eyes, so we can understand that we know that it's real? Because remember, it must be physical, it must be observable if it's the creator, because we are physical. And we need it to be created by something of our own nature, physical. Okay? That exists, that is observable. Because this is what we are. We are conscious and self-aware. So our creator must be conscious and self-aware just like us. And physical just like us. Objects like a solid thing that we can observe, we can see. Matter at a level of density. Okay? So we made that clear. So we understand what the definitions of infinity is. The definitions of infinity is boundless, endless, limitless, forever, eternal. So what is this physical object that meets all the requirements, that has all the attributes, all the qualities, all the properties of the definition of infinity? Well, there is only one object that meets these requirements, all of them, without exception, and that is the sphere. The sphere. Sphere. Like planet Earth is spherical for a reason. So I'm going to get into that. But then let's start with the definition sphere. It has to be spheric, physical, right? A geometry, an object that meets the requirements of infinity itself. The definition, the strict definition of infinity has to be met. All the parameters, everything within the definition of infinity has to be defined and proven physically to understand the nature of infinity in a physical form and a shape in a geometry. And that is the sphere. Because the sphere is limitless. It has no end. If you are on the surface of the sphere, you can walk around the sphere forever, for eternity, and you will never find an end to it. There's no end. You will be walking in circles around the sphere forever, to eternity, for eternity. Okay, an infinite number of cycles of eternity. You're gonna be walking around the sphere and you would find no end to it. It comes full circle. It's spherical in nature. It has volume. It has a geometry that's spherical, and it's boundless. Then again, which meets the criteria. There's no boundaries to the sphere. You don't find boundaries within the sphere. If you walk around the surface of the sphere, there will be that. The definition is met. Then again, there's no limits. It's boundless. It's endless. There is no end to the sphere. Physically speaking, I can just spin this forever and I will never find an end to it. Never would find a limit. Never will find a boundary. Because it's spherical in nature, it has no end. It's forever, it's eternal. So this is the physical definition of infinity in an object. So that's why the geometric nature of infinity, which is the creator, is spherical. The sphere is the geometry, is the physical form, the physical shape, the solid that represents all the attributes and the definitions, the qualities and property of the definitions of infinity as a concept that we can grasp in our mind because we're conscious and self-aware. And we need to prove our existence by proving infinity itself as a concept in a physical form, if infinity is the creator, which is the case. So we found the object. Thus, let's start the real physics, let's start the real conversation. So, can we observe spheres now that we know the geometry? Or is it only like this toy? We can. It has to be observed in nature, right? Because nature created us in the first place. The biology, life, all this, right? Through the DNA. So it has to be observable in nature. It has to be observable in nature. And not only observable in one random event, it has to be a recurrent occurrence, meaning it has always to be the case. There's no exceptions. In order to be a law of nature, it has to be observable, repeatable, replicable all the time in the lab. And it has to be observed by the understood and interpreted by the observer, us. And the nature of its properties cannot be changed after being observed. Because that's what consciousness is. In physics, sometimes certain elements change their nature when they're observed. But if it's the creator, it needs to be always consistent. Because remember, we are conscious and self-aware. So the creator creates creation. Creation creates creators. Right? So if our properties, if we are creators, just like creation itself, then that means that we are conscious and self-aware, right? But that means the creator is also conscious and self-aware because he created us in the first place. He's conscious of the creation, he's self-aware enough to understand that he's a creator and he can create. But the difference is that it's infinite self-awareness, infinite consciousness. So it's a big creator. because it's infinite. It has no limit, and the definition is met in the sphere, physically speaking, in objects, geometry. Okay, so when the conscious individual, us, the observer, observes through our self-awareness, observe the object, the geometry of it, in nature, it cannot be changed. Its consistency and the definition needs to still remain the same. It needs to meet all the properties, all the qualities of infinity itself, if infinity is a creator. And it does, because when we observe existence, we observe reality, then we start to see spheres everywhere. And these are not normal spheres, these are energy spheres, spherical spheres. They create life. Okay? So it meets all the requirements, because the creator creates creators. Creation creates creators. Energy equals creation, and creation equals life, and life equals love. So I'm going to get into why life is love and all this later, but it's a creator. Energy creates. We understand this. So it has to be spherical if it's to meet the requirements of the object that is geometrical and is the creator itself, then the geometry of infinity. And what is that object that's spherical? And it's energy that we can see with our eyes. Every day, no matter who you are, you can see it. And not only us, also technology and equipment and tools can also see it, and it will be also the same way, and it will never change. It is the sun. Our closest star, the nearest star to us, is spherical in nature. It's spherical in nature. It's an object that's spherical, and it's pure energy. It's pure energy, and energy is creation. In fact, the sun created the conditions on earth for us to exist in the first place. Okay? So this is extremely important to understand, because this is the most important notion. We're trying to understand nature and observable reality, and we're trying to identify the creator. So the creator must be infinite if infinity is the creator, and it has to meet the requirements and the definitions of infinity, and it has to be observable. And we have this, and this is the sun. The sun is spherical energy, and in fact created us all. The energy from the sun created the conditions on earth to exist, and the earth is spherical too, which is another creator. Remember, creation creates creators. And this is an infinite cycle, because infinity is infinite consciousness and infinite self-awareness, just like us, because we're conscious and self-aware. And we were created by creation. We are creators ourselves. So you see, it's an organizing agent of creation, spherical energy, the sun. The sun is spherical, on a spherical object. Okay? And the energy of the sun create the elements, hydrogen and all this energy, and these information in way of energy sets, waves and rays and flares, all these high energy levels, they created the conditions around the solar system for the planets to emerge and the earth to rise and turn into what it became, this spherical object due to gravitational forces that I'm going to talk about later in this video. So it's an object, spherical. The earth is spherical, just like the sun. You see, it's creation itself at a heavier density, meaning the mass is heavier. It has more mass. It has more density, meaning it's an object that has it's heavier. It has more matter. The gravitational pull is different than of the consistency of the sun, because it's a different scale of creation. It's much denser. Okay, it's more density in it because of its properties, but the nature of it doesn't change. Still spherical. Creation is spherical in nature. Okay, because infinity is a creator. And the properties of infinity in a physical form, the geometry is spherical. And the creator, which is infinity, must be able to create, right, physical objects. And the sphere is the proof. So the sun is spherical, and it created the conditions for the earth to emerge, which is also spherical, as you can see. And then we are created as a result of the conditions on earth to form life, biological life forms, which is who we are. Which is who we are. Which is who we are. And we are creators. Okay? So let's then move from this notion. We established that infinity has to be spherical if it meets the properties in a physical way as a creator. And it has to be energy, because energy creates. Energy created us. Right? And we have proven this because the sun is a spherical object that's pure energy, spherical energy. And it created us in the first place. The sun itself is not the creator per se, is not infinity, is not creation as such, but it is a creator because creators create creations. And the sun created us, but it replicates the organizing agent of creation, which is spherical energy, and it creates spheres. Because we ourselves are spheres as well. And I'm going to explain how is it that we are spheres as biology. Because of our electromagnetic field. Okay? That is energy, and it gives us life. And where does the electromagnetic field of the human body comes from that allows us to exist in the first place so we can be conscious and self-aware? Is the human heartbeat. It comes from the heart, the pulse of life, the pulse of creation. The human heartbeat generates a pulse, and this pulse generates a resonance that creates an electromagnetic field, and this electromagnetic field, this force field, powers the human body. This electromagnetic force field is spherical in nature, is electricity, is electrical, is electromagnetic, is spherical energy. Just like the sun, okay? And it powers the human body. It powers the human brain. It powers the organs so we can exist. And when the systems go live, then we can think, we can be conscious, self-aware, just like creation itself, just like infinity itself, okay? And be sentient and think. So this is where love kicks in, because we are sentient. We have emotions and feelings, and the feelings and emotions come from the human heart. We love with our hearts. So then again, life itself, the primordial instinct of the human race to exist, the primordial instinct to live, to exist, is the human heartbeat. Without the human heartbeat, we wouldn't exist. Okay? We wouldn't exist without the human heartbeat. The human heartbeat is our biological creator. Is the engine, is the generator, is the motor. It's the pump. Is the pulse of life, the pulse of creation that generates the conditions for the electromagnetic field to generate around ourselves, which is spherical in nature, just like the sun. Energy, spherical energy, and this spherical energy powers the human body. So we can think, be conscious, be self-aware, be intelligent, and be sentient, which is to feel and have emotions. And our emotions come from the heart. So then again, if life itself, the primordial instinct, we're talking about primordial source of motion equals energy, right? And what's the primordial source of motion of the human body? The human heartbeat. That is energy that creates life. And love is a primordial instinct. The primordial instinct of to exist, to live as a human, is a human heartbeat. Without it, we wouldn't exist. And we are, when systems go live, we're conscious and self-aware. Just like infinity itself, the creator itself, creation itself, because it's an organizing agent of creation that replicates itself at different scales and different levels of density. And we are the biological density, the biological scale of creation. So love comes from the heart. So if our instinct to live is a heartbeat, and then when we're alive, when systems go live, we are sentient, so we can feel and have emotions. And emotions, which is this fundamental thing that makes us human, comes from the heart. Then that means our instinct is to love. We live to love. In fact, the energy of the heart can be measured just like the electromagnetic field, like the heartbeat and the rate of it. Its rate, the heart rate and all these. And love can be measured. And the highest frequency, the highest vibration, the highest wave, the highest resonance, the highest oscillation, the highest pulse that the human heart can generate when it comes to emotions is love. Is the highest frequency. Is the highest frequency. The highest frequency is the frequency of love, because love is energy, because it comes from the heart, and the heart is a pump. It has a pulse of life, the pulse of creation that makes us be alive, because remember, energy is creation and creation is life, and life is love, because the human heart gives us life, and love comes from the heart, and the highest frequency of the heart is love. So we create with love. We are life. We live to love. This is our nature. Why? Well, you might wonder, and how is it that love is life and love is energy and creation? Well, we make love. We have children. We love our children. We love our children. We love our children. We love our children. Why? Because it's our instinct to love our creation. Because our instinct is to love. So we love our creation. And we made love, so we created our creation in the first place, consciously, with a heart energy, with a love, because we are alive because of the human heartbeat. And love is the highest frequency of the human heartbeat. And we are energy, we're light spherical beings. Because without the human heartbeat, we wouldn't exist. No systems would go live. We wouldn't be conscious and self-aware, like infinity itself that created us in the first place by designing biology and all these systems that are spherical in nature, because the cell also has its own electromagnetic field. Everything has its own electromagnetic field. This is not just unique to the human heart and the human body, because spherical energy is the organizing agent of creation. We all are energy, and we all spherical energy. What powers us is always a pulse that is spherical energy in nature, because creation, infinity, is spherical in nature, because it has to be infinity and physical, and we have to observe it, and the sun is the proof. Okay, and then we can see other proofs now with the electromagnetic field of the heart and all these different things. So, okay, so I have established this notion, which is objective reality. This is based on physics. This is biology. This is truth. Okay, this is mathematical. Now, we know this. And what else do we do? Well, we love our creations. We not only love our children, which is our instinct to love, our instinct to reproduce, which is all based on instincts. All right. So what does that make us? That makes us a benevolent species. Our nature is benevolent. Okay. We are benevolent species. We love with our hearts, and we live to love, and we love to live. We all want to have a purposeful life, a meaningful life, a life full of meaning, of joy, a fulfilling life. This is what we all strive to do. We strive for this, for happiness, the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of love, because it's our instinct to love. Okay, this is our nature. So our nature is a heartful species, a heart-based species, a love-based species, because the human heartbeat gives us life with the heartbeat in the first place. It generates the electromagnetic field, the light spherical being that powers us, so we can think, be conscious, self-aware, sentient, intelligent. So then we live to love, because as a result of being alive, we love with our hearts, which is the highest energy that we can emit. And we are energy because of the electromagnetic field that gives us life in the first place, because energy is creation, and creation is life, and life is love, because love is the highest energy of the heart, and the heart gave us life in the first place with the energy that created with the electromagnetic pulse. So this is full circle. This is a spherical idea. This is a complete idea, a complete notion that it replicates infinity itself, because it comes full circle onto itself. Okay? It's spherical in nature because it's creation itself. And creation itself is spherical because infinity is spherical. And infinity is the creation. It's creation, is the creator itself. Okay? It's spherical energy, motion. The primary source of motion is energy, and it's spherical in nature. And I'm going to explain how is it that how the first motion comes into place. So infinity itself forms, and it creates everything around us that we are. Okay, but I just needed to establish this very notion. And the earth itself is able to create life, us, biologically speaking, through the DNA, because the earth itself is not only a physical object that's spherical, but the earth itself has its own electromagnetic field. Okay, that comes from its own motions, its own nature, its primordial source of motion, its energy, its gravitational pull, its gravitational momentum. And all this happens as a result, and then because of the energy coming from the sun and all the different factors, all these celestial objects, and all the motions that come as a result of gravitics, all this generates an electromagnetic field around the earth. And this electromagnetic field is the electromagnetic field, just like us, that powers the earth and allows the earth to be alive and beaming with life and teeming with life. This is why we have an atmosphere. This is why we have a biosphere. This is why we have a biome, ecosystems, support systems. This is why the earth is able to absorb all this energy from the sun. And then it has all these elements that we use as fuels, so it can support life, not only human life and organism, but all the biological organisms, fauna and flora, with their own DNA structure in existence here on Earth. Because Earth is this beautiful creator. Because creation creates creators, and creators create creation. Then again, infinity, represented in the way of the sun at this scale of creation, at the astronomical scale, created the conditions on Earth. So creation creates creators. Creation created the conditions for the sun to emerge, and the sun is a creator, and the sun created a creation, and that creation is the solar system and everything around it, due to all the gravitics, all the gravitational forces, and all the natural phenomena and occurrence that created the conditions for planets to emerge, and the Earth emerged as a result of that. It was created, and the earth itself is a creator because the earth creates life with its own electromagnetic field, and us exists as a result of that. And because we're the biological scale of creation, creation created us through the DNA, okay, evolution, then we as creators can create creations, and this is why we can make children. We make love, we have children, and we love our children, which is our instinct to love. And then we also create with our minds and our consciousness and self-awareness, our creativity, our brains. We are creators ourselves. We create, and energy is creation. We are energy, we have a heartbeat. And then the highest frequency of the heart is love. And love is the highest form of creation because high energy has high creation. Look at the energy from the sun creating a beautiful thing, which is the earth, that supports this life, which is incredible. So it's high energy. See, high energy, high results, high creations. So because the highest frequency of our heart is love, when we engage our love and we're loving, which is our nature, our instinct, we're love-based, our heart is loving, and we create the most beautiful creations. That's why music that is created with the heart, everyone contributes and loves it. And not only music, we've been creating for thousands of years because we are creators ourselves. We not only make children, we create. This is what we do. We create. We are creators ourselves. And we love ourselves. We love our creation. We love others. And others love themselves. And they create with love as well. And we love their creations. And it's a full circle again. It's spherical. Because love is energy. And energy is creation. And creation is life. And it's full circle. Okay? So the primordial source of motion equals energy. And what's our primordial source of motion? The pulse of life, the pulse of creation, the human heartbeat. That gives us life, which is energy, spherical energy. Then again, spherical energy is the organizing agent of creation. Because the sun itself has its own electromagnetic field. Okay, and now I'm going to start talking about this, because now I'm going to talk about the physics. Where does the actual primordial source of motion of the sun comes from? Okay, that created the conditions for the earth to emerge and has its own motion due to the sun's gravitational pull and force and natural occurrence and phenomena and electromagnetism, all these. But I'll explain it at the sun scale because this is the most important scale for us to truly understand the nature of infinity, the nature of spherical energy, and the nature of creation itself that replicates infinitely at different scales. Okay, so, and this is what the physics, this visual has visuals, has photos, graphs that you can see, images that represent the natural motions of creation itself, the primary source of motion and where it comes from. Okay, so let's start there. Let's start with the sun. So the sun itself has its own electromagnetic field, its own pulse of life, its own pulse of creation. And in physics, the primary source of motion, right? Energy itself needs a spark. It needs to start, to spin. It needs that first movement, right? The prime mover, it needs it. It needs that first spark that ignites the first move, that generates the gyroscopic forces. It generates the momentum. So the sphere through polarization, because it has north and south, positive and negative, through the motion generates electromagnetism as a result, and this is energy. Okay, the motion generates that through angular momentum, torque, spin, and all these different things that essentially happen at the epicenter of it. The first motion happens at the epicenter of the sphere, what you call the vortex. And this is the center of gravity of the sphere, is what is known as the singularity. It's the singular point where all points meet, and the first motion is generated due to gravity. Okay, it's gravity that generates the first motion. Okay, gravity generates the first motion. That is spin, that angular momentum, that as a result of polarity leads to electromagnetism. Okay, so let's talk about it. It starts with gravity. Okay, it starts with gravity. Gravity is the primordial source of motion. But we need to understand what gravity is in the first place, right? Because if it is gravity that leads to polarization and electromagnetism, and then spherical energy manifests as a result, due to these motions, this angular momentum, all these physics, then we need to understand the nature of gravity itself, what gravity is. Okay, because gravity is the angular momentum, is the event horizon, is the singularity, is the wormhole, is the vortex, the center of gravity, the point where there is no mass, the equilibrium. And when there's a motion, a spark, that spark tilts the balance, changes the dynamics, and spin starts, angular momentum forms, and then torque happens as a result, and then you have all these gyroscopic forces taking place due to the polarity of the sphere and its nature, and then electromagnetism forms, which is electrical in nature, and that electricity self-perpetuates and powers the system to infinity and perpetuity, because that's what infinity is. If you look at the symbol of infinity, is perpetuity. Self-perpetuity is self-reinforcement, is self-learning. It learns from itself. And what's that? At the highest level is consciousness and self-awareness, but at the motion level is momentum. It builds on its own momentum that is generated from the original first move, that when polarity kicks in and electromagnetism starts, is the electricity generated as a result that keeps on powering the sphere to spin and spin and spin and create motion and energy as a result, and then life is created and creation happens as a result of energy. And because of this, the sun, at the epicenter of the sun, at the heart of the sun, at the core of the sun, where the singularity happens, where the wormhole is also known as the black hole. But I don't like that term too much because it's incoherent. But then is the wormhole, is the vortex itself, the singularity, the event horizon, escape velocity, and when it happens at the heart of a star, due to its own electromagnetic field that is created due to gravity, that I'll explain what it is, then a fusion reaction happens at a star. Our sun is a star, and that fusion reaction, that escape velocity that generated the first motion, that created the energy in the first place to generate the star, creates a fusion reaction. And that fusion reaction is what generates the first elements, light itself, as we know, photons, electrons, all these different things. All these particles come from that spark, and that spark is faster than the speed of light. That's why it can create light itself, because it's faster. It creates light, and light comes in the way of photons and electrons and all these different components that form into elements such as hydrogen. So hydrogen is the first element of the periodic table, and that element is the one that created the conditions in the solar system so the Earth could emerge. In fact, water, which is a fundamental element for the composition of life, biologically speaking, through the DNA, requires hydrogen and oxygen. We are water in a big way, and we drink water, and hydrogen is that, you see, it's life itself due to energy density. So gravity is what does that. Gravity is the primordial source of motion. But then again, because this is infinite, something must have created gravity itself. So gravity can create the singularity, the escape velocity that generates this huge, it's a gigantic electromagnetic field, spherical electromagnetic field, just like the spherical electromagnetic field that surrounds a human heart due to the heartbeat, but at a scale that is bigger, that creates a star. You see, like our spark, our pulse of life, our pulse of creation, the human heartbeat generates life at the biological scale of the human body. But then you need that same thing. You need a pulse. You need the pulse that generates the electromagnetic field of a sun, a star. It has to be a big one because the sun is huge, right? It created everything around us. So it has to be this huge, huge sphere, electromagnetic field, spherical energy, that needs to have the conditions. So gravity is big enough so it generates this electromagnetic field that is huge, and then it starts the first reaction, fusion reaction, that generates light itself, elements, and then the star forms and is born. And then that leads to this beautiful thing that we call life here, and we observe with our eyes, consciousness and self-awareness. So what generates the gravity in the first place? Because there must be something that generates that pulse for the electromagnetic field of the sun to generate the motion that creates the fusion reaction that, as a result of its byproduct, escape velocity, light is created. Because it's faster than light. You see, it's more powerful than light. It's this force, this gravity, this torque, this motion is powerful enough to create a singularity that creates light. And light leads to energy, and energy is creation. Okay? So this is faster, more powerful, is infinite. Just like infinity itself. Infinite energy, the infinite motion is infinite gravitational spin, this first turn, this tilt. And that is what generates the fusion reaction, the vortex, the singularity, the event horizon, the wormhole, escape velocity, the center of gravity that generates the fusion reaction as a result of its motion and its spin, as a result of its electromagnetic field due to polarity, and that motion self-perpetuates into infinity, and that fusion reaction, because of the size and the magnitude of the power of this gyroscopic energy, the angular momentum and the torque, is so huge that that spin, that singularity generates enough power to create light itself. To generate light itself. That comes from what we call the vacuum. The vacuum, the field of creation. These are the terms. But then let's understand this, because this is where it comes from, right? The vacuum, space itself, all right? The curvature of